I don't know if you saw, but Riot Gaming have been in the news again for...
You're not even a real journalism.
...negative reasons.
That's
Thanks
right.
for the flurry of subs coming
Surprise Mechanics forehead.
in. Yeah, Surprise Mechanics and very ethical. They were in the news again, and it was announced at the start of the month, continuing the fine work by Cecilia, who over at Kotaku, who's been reporting about this. Sorry, it's Kotaku, so you're going to get flashed at.
You're not even a real journalism.
Unless there's probably already an archive of
That's
this,
right.
because it is Kotaku.
Subtrain Pepega.
Subtrain Pepega. I'm a Pepega. We're all Pepegas. This is a buzzword that we say. Anyway, here is the Kotaku article. The state of California said that they're going to investigate Riot Games. Obviously, we have that ongoing lawsuit I reported about, where they're being accused of systemic sexual, sexism, and as well as sex abuse and other stuff going on. So they also had the walkouts from the forced arbitration. So the state of California is going to step in because, again, I keep saying this, out of all the states in America, California is the most worker-friendly one. And this is a high-profile story. The games industry is not a fucking small deal. And they're very aware. So this is the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing said today it is filing an investigation enforcement suit against the League of Legends publisher Riot Games as part of an investigation into gender discrimination at the company. They're asking the courts to compel Riot Games to provide employees' pay information for an ongoing investigation into alleged gender discrimination, according to a press release issued on Wednesday afternoon by the department. It added that it was looking into alleged unequal pay, sexual harassment, sexual assault, retaliation, and gender discrimination in selection and promotion. Things that I've said for years have been going on, things that for years people have known have been going on, things that even rioters there knew were going on and did nothing about and said nothing about. And every time I tried to do it, all the little morons, all the league cells, yeah, you're just biased against Riot Games. They are a good company and the best because they make a game that has unbelievably weird, grindy, predatory mechanics designed to make money, and they take money from China. That's fine, right? Yeah, brilliant. You're the good guys. I'm the asshole. Okay, yeah. While the investigation began in October, which is when all of this stuff started jumping off, the Department of Fair Employment and Housing said that Riot had refused to provide the department with adequate information to analyze whether women were paid less than men at the company, which is why it has now had to file the suit. So again, Riot Games, nothing to hide, remember, because they're definitely a fair and ethical company, and they're woke, and they love women, and they want their video game to make you a better person because you're bad, they're good, they're the moral arbiters, while they're flicking people's balls, farting in their face, and raping women in coffee breaks, evidently. So, fine, they're the good guys. They're the good guys, right? You're an asshole because you typed a naughty word in a League of Legends game once. So they have now refused to comply. They have now refused to comply with this like opening of the books. Now, keep in mind, this is Riot Games who've said, we want improved transparency. They're releasing statements about this stuff. It's allegedly raping women in the coffee breaks. It's only named in a lawsuit. That's fine. They want all of this. They want all of this to be fixed, right? Yet they refuse to just show simple salary information to the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing. And yes, they basically will not make that information available unless they are legally compelled to do so. So how mad is that? Why? What possible benefit is there to the optics of you publicly refusing to release that information. Why not just comply fully with this investigation? Because you obviously wouldn't be sexually discriminatory because you're Riot Games. There's no way. This has all got to be an elaborate hoax. Anyway, they released a statement that said, we've been in active conversations with the DFEH since its inquiry began. Investigations like this can arise when there have been allegations of workplace disparity, and we've been cooperating in good faith with them to address its concerns. Just not giving them the information they need. During this time, we promptly responded to their requests and produced over 2,500 pages of documents, none of which are the ones they're asking for, then, evidently, and several thousands of lines of pay data so far. We've also made several recent requests that they participate in a call with us to address their requests. To date, these requests have been unanswered. So we're frankly disappointed to see them issue a press release alleging we've been non-cooperative. Why? The hubris of Riot Games. The hubris of this company, that even now, when it becomes apparent just how rotten to the core they are going, well, we called the Department of Fair Employment and Housing in California and said, hey, want to hop on a call? Want to come on Discord, buddy? Want to debate it? They are a fucking state legal entity. You are Riot Games, a weird games developer with cult-like tendencies and a massive problem for mistreating women. Why on earth do they need to dance to your fucking tune, you demented cunts? It's just unreal. It does, like, it never stops with this company. It never stops with this company. Just imagine the fucking stones you have to have. Right, we're being investigated for sexism, and there's a public statement that's been released saying we're not cooperating. Why don't we just flip it round and say, no, you're the ones not cooperating with us? Nyuk, 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 nyuk. It is ridiculous. It is so absurd. Again, if this was satire, I would buy it. I would say this is very good satire. I would say this is very, very well done. We're confident that we've made substantial progress on diversity. Yes, by getting your employees to sign forced arbitration contracts in the matters of sexual harassment, meaning they waive their legal rights to prosecute. Very cool, Riot Games. Very progressive. We've made substantial progress on diversity, inclusion, anti-company culture. And look forward to continue demonstrating this to the DFEH as soon as they hop on a call with us. Maine. This was further reported on in PC Games Insider Biz. After that, after the initial reports by Kotaku, the situation gets worse because it's Riot fucking Games. Turns out, now, not only were they not cooperating, it was made clear that they have withheld critical information. So the 2,500 pages of documents that Riot Games were boasting about, as far as the DFEH are fucking concerned, was withheld the critical information they needed. And this was made very, very clear that actually they've sent us a load of shit for us to go through, but they're just tying us up in knots, and what we actually need, we're not getting to. So yes, they lacked the critical information, guys. Now this, to me, as I believe anything, right, anything of this nature about a games development company is relevant to the interests of people who play the game. Not necessarily, right? As in, you might just be like, I don't give a fuck, honestly. If Riot Games folded tomorrow and League of Legends dies, I just go play Dota or another MOBA or whatever. Not a big deal to me. You know, but maybe you would feel strongly about it. So, again, I don't want to be the one that say this should probably be of interest to the League of Legends subreddit. Wrong. All of this story mysteriously suppressed by the Reddit League of Legends moderators again. And you have to start asking, at what point do you really need to stop blaming the moderators and start blaming just Reddit as a website and how they have provenly been in cahoots with games development companies for years and big businesses and corporations for years. And they will happily censor anything that goes against corporate interests or conservative interests. They'll happily do it in the interests of finally trying to monetize a website, which is like the third or fourth biggest, or maybe sixth biggest in the world, and yet cannot successfully make money because they're all morons in the Reddit management. So the League of Legends moderators were like, yep, we absolutely must suppress this story. We don't care what rules we have to make up. We don't care what rules at all. Actually, let me... I hate new Reddit, dude. I hate the new Reddit. Oh, but whatever. We'll just look at it because it's loaded. And this submission was banned by the mods. That basically there can't be any talk about how Riot Games tried an act of subterfuge to a legal investigation about whether or not they're discriminatory towards women. Can't have that on the League of Legends subreddit. Absolutely cannot. This isn't this isn't relevant to anybody who plays the game. And this is where I thought it was really funny. Yeah, fuck it. I'm gonna switch to old Reddit, dudes. I'm gonna switch to old Reddit. I just think it's easier to follow conversations on there. You're absolutely right. Hands down, one of the worst redesigns I think I've ever seen on any website ever. Just absolute garbage. Anyway, now there's this guy called the Cactopus, which I've always thought isn't actually necessarily a real employee or a real account. I think this is a collaborative account for multiple Riot employees that they use because it's the only one that really makes official policy statements. So I believe
listening to Richard at work going off on Riot Games.
Yes, sir.
Brother, keep up the good work.
56 months, homie. Glad you're still with us, man. So I think this is like an account that several people have access to and post statements from on behalf of Riot Games. But anyway, the Cactopus is the top comment, and it says, as a Rioter, right? Because that actually has some currency when you're addressing League of Legends moderators, as we know. I personally wish mods wouldn't remove stories like this from the sub. It results in a sort of double whammy brand hit for Riot every time it happens, because people still find out about the story, but also assume Riot is involved in a cover-up. I know it's about the relevancy rule, but I wish the rule could be amended to allow critical stories about Riot like this. Apologies for weighing in publicly. Riot prefers not to get involved in moderation issues. Something I will show you is a blatant contradiction and a blatant lie in about 8 minutes from now. But I want to make our thinking on this stuff more open. So let me tell you, the Cactopus, probably what would have been a good policy if you didn't want the moderators to consistently hide negative stories about Riot, wasn't spend years inducing them to hide negative stories about Riot Games, to hide the fact that you paid for the redesign of the sub, that you sent them gifts, that some of your former employees and moderators, that moderators have actively applied for jobs and expressed that they want to have an interest with you, that you share social media platforms and that you talk to them in private, that you made them sign NDAs, that you have done launches of content with them. Probably shouldn't have spent years doing that if you then didn't want them to continually act in your best interests, because what you've cultivated there is, well, I'm a fucking League of Legends moderator with nothing in my life whatsoever, so I must only defend two things: the honor of the moderators, and therefore we will just remove and delete any criticism of the moderation at all. And we've even created a subreddit just to file it away to, which isn't even run by the League of Legends moderators, where we just pretend to listen and then just shit in your face and don't change anything, where people like fucking Reagan Drake and Pick Flute and all these guys can just, even to the point of throwing racial epithets around, but they'll never be unmodded. Perfectly fine. You know, good on you, boys. Good on you guys. So yeah, you know, the Riot staff member is now saying, "Oh no, now this acting in our best interest is really hurting us because people think we're involved." Why on earth would anyone think that? So you can see everyone's fucking favorite incel, who's a Kiwi and Kahootie, have rapidly. I mean, imagine beating Pick Flute and Reagan Drake. Like Pick Flute is an actual incel. Who likes to play instruments and make anime podcasts in his spare time. Hilarious. Quentin is some fucking French lefty lunatic who probably still thinks Macron is doing great work in the country. And famously said Thorin's video about women in esports was hate speech.
That's right.
So, you know, those guys are pretty mentally ill, but Kahootie and Who's a Kiwi are actually seriously mentally ill. Who's a Kiwi has nothing. This is it. He always is like on Discord pretending that he's got a life and going, I must spend time with my family. Yeah, all right, mate. Your real family. Okay, buddy. You have written manifestos, pages and pages of manifestos about moderating policy and what should we do? Like, listen, again, imagine a world where a janitor, right, rather than just take the mop and clean up the shit on the floor, because that's what you're paid to do, actually went into his business and would write diatribes. The thing is, though, should we use Clorox or should we use Lysol to clean up the shit? And what is the best stroke with which to clean up the shit? I don't know. And in fact, sometimes, is it not better that we indeed leave the shit? But also, not just clean up shit, but the potted plants in the lobby, well, we should get rid of them too, even though the company likes the potted plants and paid for the potted plants. I'm a janitor. You know, imagine that. Imagine doing that, right? Like, you would just get fired. You would just get fired and you would be told you're mentally ill. You have to go and see somebody because you take the mop, you put it on the floor, you clean up the shit, you clean the mop, you put the mop away, you clock off, you go have a cold beer, and you rinse and repeat. That is what a janitor does, right? So the idea that this guy is trying to make out he is mentally stable when he literally, there's this thing called like Theory of Reddit or something, and he's just written like 6,000 word manifestos like the Kahootie guy does as well. And again, Kahootie, a Swedish cucklord. So, you know, these memes are outrageous, dude. Anyway, they write these 6,000 word fucking manifestos about how to moderate. It's easy. Does it break the rules? Click delete. Does it not? Leave it. That is your whole life. And I understand why you must try and make up like it's bigger and more important. It ain't, and it never will be. But anyway, he immediately gets there to stick his tongue in the rioter's arsehole. Oh, please. Oh, Riot. I'm here, your loyal and humble servant, who's a Kiwi. But also, actually, no, I mustn't placate myself too much. I mustn't prostrate myself before them too much. Yes, let's have a discussion about this, Riot Games. So, good to hear this perspective. Like, if anybody else criticizes moderation and tells them to stop censoring, anti-Riot Games stories, they're just banned. Anyone says my name, banned. Well, great to hear another perspective, Riot employee. I'm replying to your comment here simply for visibility and not because you are a Riot. If you have to say that, it's a lie. I want to provide some context for why our team tightened up the relevance rule to hopefully shed some light on people for our thinking here. First, our relevance rule is now the directly related rule. I know it might seem like a silly distinction. I mean, everything you do is silly to normal, well-balanced people who actually have, like, lives and stuff. But, I mean, whatever. That's splitting hairs, I would say. But it matters quite a lot when you are thinking about the enforcement we apply. Second, before our update to the directly related rule, our team was incredibly divided on stories like these, which resulted in very inconsistent enforcement. Articles being allowed removed were completely dependent on the group of mods online at the time, and that's not good for anyone. We updated the rule to make the line for what is and is not allowed with regards to Riot Games much more clear. Essentially, we apply the same considerations as we do for news about sponsorships or deals. The article needs to talk about the impact on League of Legends, the game. Isn't it coincidental, guys, that they decided to change the relevancy rule to articles must specifically impact on the game at the same time Riot Games started getting nothing but negative publicity, not about the game, but about all the other shit that they're into. Weird, isn't it, that they decided to change it then, right? And also, just checkmate for the morons. If this were to significantly impact, like let's say Riot Games lost a massive lawsuit and settled, they might have to make cuts to offset the losses that lawsuit says. There might be significant firings. You know, this could lead, I mean, this is hyperbole and would never happen, but it could theoretically lead to, you know, if it was bad enough, Riot Games being shut down in the state of California and not allowed to operate. Well, how do you think that would impact on the League of Legends operations in California? So the idea this is in no way directly related to the game is like mental gymnastics. Pretty ridiculous. A lot of articles don't do that, so they get removed.
That's right.
That is the reality. However, our goal is always, thanks, dude. Thanks for the sub. Is always to moderate in the best interest of the community. Lol. It's to moderate in the best interests of you having status within the community. Like, what are you talking about? How many times do you have to be told that the community want my stories, the community want Duncan's content, the community want to know what's going on in Riot Games, and you remove all of those things for you? So no, you don't care about the community. If you cared about the community, you would have gone. You would have relinquished the reins by now, but you never will. This thread here by Dollface is super helpful and gives us lots of productive comments to browse through and consider. We'll discuss internally and see if there's any way we can allow more articles about Riot while still trying to ensure consistency. No promises on where things will land, but we are listening and we'll see if we can find that sweet spot. And Catapus replies going, I totally empathize with the position you're in, my dude. Like, the slippery slope to all of the subs random articles about Riot is a real risk. In what way is it a real risk? That implies that on any given day there are dozens, because I think how much is it on a Reddit page? Like 20? So that implies that there are a dozen articles worthy of being upvoted on any 48-hour period about Riot Games. Sorry, guys, they're only writing about one thing right now about Riot Games, and that's what a bunch of cunts you are. Because finally, once again, everyone gets on Richard Lewis's page. It just takes 2 or 3 years for everyone to play catch-up in the business. Maybe you could apply some sort of journalism-style newsworthiness standards to pieces about Riot. So now we have a Riot Games employee telling Riot Games moderators who are not trained in journalism that they need to be arbiters of what constitutes journalism. I see no problem with this. I see no problem when it's the same staff who told journalists to reveal sources privately or not have their work on a subreddit. If a story seems important,
journalism.
major legal issues, journalism exposés, whistleblower pieces like the one Kotaku has become famous for, this could be deemed to be highly newsworthy and thus allowed on the sub. Not a perfect standard because it would require some editorial discretion on your part. They're not editors. They are not editors. The editorial discretion... I don't know how many times I have to explain this to fucking morons and incels and Riot employees who seem to fit in the Venn diagram of those two things. The editorial discretion is done by the editors that work at the site. The paid and trained editors. Or by people like myself who are fully qualified and have held editorial positions, same as Duncan has, right? When we see, of course, you know, fucking Reagan Drake and losers like that saying, well, there's no editor for Duncan's YouTube videos, so we must remove his video telling everyone how Riot Games treat people in the industry and how they reneged on promises and have fucked them out of work and fucked me out. We have to remove that. We have to remove that and how they fucked over Monte Cristo for like just wanting better workers' rights. We have to. We can't publish that because Duncan doesn't go through an editor. He is the editor. He's been an editor of a massive website.
When bang some hoes and film some foes.
Indeed, hoes mad. So ridiculous. Anyway, Riot is actually a multi-billion-dollar company at this point. So when someone in the media is holding us to account for our cultural business practices, that's very much newsworthy. And then here he goes. Who's a Kiwi? My current thought. It's always his thoughts, by the way. The team, I don't even think has a democratic vote anymore because this loser has somehow managed to outlast guys like the Enigma Blade and people like that, and just rose to the position where he's calling all the shots on the sub. Is that we could potentially implement a carve-out that allows for significant news relating to Riot. It would be similar to our rule about significant news relating to content creators and personalities. However, it does have the one damning impact of reintroducing subjectivity. Nightmare. Unfortunately, the subreddit puts our team under a microscope for every decision we make, and inconsistency on... No, they put you under a microscope for every obviously bad decision you make. If you just stopped trying to make your jobs more complex to justify why you do them to yourself and nobody else, because nobody else cares. No one cares whether you live or die. Nobody. You're just an anonymous name on Reddit, right? You're not important to anything at all, right? You, in the grand cosmic scheme of things, you simply do not matter. You only have to ever come out and defend the obviously terrible decisions.
Hello, we here at the League of Legends Reddit moderators have decided that we must stop this bad man who goes by the name Ricardo Luis. We have decided that we are banning anyone who says any form of name that has the initials RL. Thank you very much.
Like, seriously, are you telling me the average Reddit user, like, wakes up and goes, oh my god, I wonder what the Reddit moderators have been doing today and must pore over every decision they've made? No, we talk about the bad ones. We talk about when you censor big stories. No one cares about your life. Like, nobody cares at all. You don't matter. You simply are not important to the average Redditor beyond when you are stepping on shit they want to discuss. That's it. And that's what they debate, and that's what you created the sub for, and now you're complaining about it when people use it for the express purpose you used it for. It's mental. It's like, how mentally ill do you have to be to put all this together in your brain? Like, just so ridiculous. And then he goes, we get even more, and again, they always play this victim card. We get even more abuse when it comes to controversial topics like Riot's work practices. For example, when the first Kotaku article was published, we allowed it, and we got a litany of abuse and death threats. Then we removed it as rule breaking and got even more. Right, your moderators, you're just going to get shitty DMs. And again, oh, we get this litany of death threats. These death threats you never show. These death threats you accuse Travis of encouraging against you with no evidence whatsoever. Do you know how irresponsible it is to use your platform, which, by the way, you're anonymous, remember? People don't know who you are, right? You get to make all these, like, allegations and censor people and delete anything you don't like, and that's fine. But if anybody sends you a nasty DM over it, it's everyone's fault who criticizes you. It's brigading, if I say, like, they'll call this brigading. In their eyes, brigading hasn't been somebody saying, go and vote for my content, which is what it is on the site. Brigading is criticizing our moderation decisions in any way, because if anybody follows the criticism, that's a brigade. No, that's criticism. That's what, step the fuck up or step the fuck off, crying about death threats that you never show. Just imaginary bullshit. No one, like, you know, I'm sure you get the odd person who goes like, haha, you know, kill yourself or whatever. The idea that you're getting credible death threats as a Reddit moderator is pathetic. Nobody cares enough about you to do that. Saying as somebody who's had credible death threats because of shit and lies you've told about me. So, yeah, weird when the boot's on the other foot, isn't it? This isn't a one-off. I'll look at his message at the end. This isn't a one-off. It happens often enough that we require every new mod to fully clean their Reddit profile of all personal information before joining the team. We're considering a lot when thinking about this particular issue. And then he goes, I feel you. They send me the same shit. Can actually get pretty demotivating in the right quantities. Thanks so much for the back and forth. Right? A Dota moderator came in and just said, like, I moderate the Dota 2 subreddit, which is just run in a way better fashion. So they have a talk. I'm sure they were salty about that. But let's not get into that. Let's get to the point where the Rioter, this Riot account makes a complete fool of himself because he lies. So as you know, Riot Games released Teamfight Tactics, right, which is their rip-off of Auto Chess because they wanted to get that share of the market as per usual, right? And it says here, right, when I personally wish mods wouldn't remove stories like this because it results in a double whammy brand hit because people think we're connected, blah, blah, blah. And basically the implication is that they don't have this relationship with the Reddit moderators, and every time Reddit moderators act on their behalf, it looks really bad. Well, Teamfight Tactics came out, and you'd be like, wow, there must be a new cool subreddit coming up, right? I mean, you know, to go with it, and new people are going to moderate it. So here's what Riot Games did, supposedly, with this moderation team they have no connection to and don't work with. They literally created the subreddit, right, in advance, and 1 week before they released the game, they told the Reddit moderators we're releasing a new game. Hang on, I'll go old again. And told those moderators from the League of Legends subreddit to come along and moderate that sub for them. No connection here. No connection here, guys. There's no connection between the Reddit moderators and the League of Legends as a company. Here's the cactopus again. So here's what they said they did. Riot's approach to engaging on subreddits. So first, there's a few ways we think about subreddits. We think subreddits should be run by the community, not by Riot. We don't want to be... hilarious when you employ people whose sole job is to just read the subreddits all day, and you paid for the subreddit to be redesigned so it looked better because you weren't happy with the team's, you know, the way they'd made it look. Frankly, we probably fuck it up. Lol. Brilliant. Yeah, probably you'd have all the women moderators doing something. Anyway, Riot has a pretty unusual communications policy in that any Riot Games employee is allowed to engage in any official capacity with players online, provided they first take an in-house training course. We call it red name training. Yeah, I call it fucking re-education. Devs also work with comms folks at Riot whenever they want to get expert advice and how to talk to players. And one of the things we comms experts tell them is go wherever the players are. That means that instead of trying to funnel all dev engagement down through one platform, we allow devs to show up wherever a conversation about League of Legends is happening. We'll sometimes have conversations with moderators of those communities, including League of Legends mods, whenever we want to better understand policy. So in other words, we have a constant back and forth with the Reddit moderators, suggest changes to policies, and talk about their policies they're implementing and how they affect us, Riot Games. This is a business relationship. I mean, again, I don't know what else has to be said. It's a business relationship. So let's take all of this and apply it to the real world. If Teamfight Tactics or our Teamfight Tactics gets popular with players, Rioters will show up in either, but we don't intend to act as moderators on either sub. Before we announce Teamfight Tactics, as we did the standard games industry thing, which is true, this happens, and lock down certain social channels across the internet with the name. Now, where it gets interesting is, I understand you doing it for a Twitter account. I understand you doing it for maybe like a Reddit user account. What I don't understand doing it for is a subreddit, because they're meant to be spontaneous and run by the community. You don't see like HBO come and create the True Detective subreddit, right? A fan of it does that. You know, think about what happened with Game of Thrones. It wasn't officially, wasn't official in any capacity with HBO. It was just fans of the TV show. They got ahead of the curve. They created the subreddit, knowing it would be a hub. And then you had the free folk guys, an infinitely better subreddit, break away from it over, stuff that happened on that subreddit.
You're not even a real journalism. That's right.
Yes.
Right? So they created the Teamfight Tactics subreddit 1 week before knowing the game was coming out and it had been announced anywhere. So no fan could realistically do it. Right? Which again, far be it from me to tell you what the spirit of Reddit is. But it was meant to be for Reddit is meant to be for fans and enthusiasts to create communities, not corporations to use insider information they have, because they work at the corporation, to create the community in advance and then lock down any fan influence over said community. That isn't what old Reddit was about, but of course Reddit don't give a fuck, and they're never going to speak up about this because it's Riot Games, and their subreddit's hugely popular, and they're willing to spend money with Reddit. So that included Teamfight Tactics because we wanted to prevent any bad actors from locking down the name and using it for something weird, like, ooh, I don't know, criticizing us. So we also reached out. So think about this. We reached out to the League of Legends mods privately. These are the mods who don't talk to Riot Games staff. They always say we have no relationship with them. We don't talk to them. We just had that Skype group so we knew when the servers were off. Meanwhile, Riot Games deemed them so important that they told them a week before anyone in the industry knew that Teamfight Tactics was going to come out and was going to be released, that they were making this game, and here was the subreddit for it, right? And we did, and that they wanted them to moderate it. So they went and got the same moderators who apparently remember, they're like, oh, I wish you wouldn't delete all that stuff, because they trusted them most of all to run the subreddit. So they say they care about the community. They don't. They had to get it locked down, and who better to lock it down than people who have a history of basically defending Riot Games from criticism. And at one point, the rules for the subreddit were Riot's TOS, like what you agreed to when you played League of Legends. So you couldn't criticize support or anything like that on the channel. And the moderators were going, well, that was simply to stop spam. No, you know what, right? If a games company has terrible support, I think the public should be able to make posts about that without them being deleted. Anyway, we also reached out to the League of Legends mods privately and gave them a heads up that a big announcement was coming. We didn't reveal many details about the mode, not even the name, but figured it was worth having the conversation because we wanted to know whether they would allow discussions about a radically different mode like TFT, on their main sub. Once the mode was formally announced, I personally transformed ownership of the subreddit to 2 of the existing League of Legends mods and removed myself as a moderator. Why not have open applications? Why did it have to be the League of Legends moderators? So now you make 2 games. Finally, you've made it. And really, it's still on the client. It's not even a separate game. And you decide to let the same League of Legends moderators run the sub. So you've just locked it down. There'll never be any criticism of this game or Riot Games on that sub. And then, this is hilarious. Our thinking is the community should decide what to do with the sub, not us. The mods are not the community. The mods are the mods. The mods are their own separate thing. The community are the people who post and upvote and create content and have to basically exist under the tyranny of these fucking losers. And you've given them the subreddit because you know they won't allow bad things to be said about your game, your mode on that subreddit. And then they say, if folks would prefer to use Teamfight Tactics and talk about it on the main league sub, that's also fine. We're also sharing all of this in the interest of transparency, because it would have come out.
Even a real journalism.
That's the only reason you're doing it.
That's right.
Because you get slammed with negative publicity on a daily basis right now, so you didn't want to make it look like anything shady had gone on. So you did this. And of course, in this thread, loads of people saying that they shouldn't have given it to the mods, League of Legends. Well, it can't be usurped now. Can't do anything about it now. Reddit will let these people censor journalism, harass journalists, lie about journalists committing hate speech, a crime in the UK, by the way, Quentin, which you know, right? We will let them tell lies about public figures, and we will do nothing about it. We will let them ban people for saying the name of public figures. So absolute outrageousness, and now it just applies to another game that's going to be popular in another subreddit, and Riot Games did it, and they did it to benefit themselves. So pretty ridiculous, all things said, and just par for the course. Just another day with Riot Games, where the their supposed intentions don't match up to the reality of their actions.